In 2010, a series of anonymous uploads appeared on YouTube under the name The Weeknd. There were no press, photos, no bio, and no face. Just a dark, hazy sound that felt like a secret you weren't supposed to hear. It was R&B, but it was stripped of its polish, replaced by the cold, industrial atmosphere of a rainy night in Toronto. This was the beginning of Abel Tesfay's journey from a homeless high school dropout to the biggest pop star on the planet. Abel's story starts in Scarborough, Ontario. Raised by his mother and grandmother in an Ethiopian-Canadian household, he grew up fluent in Amharic and immersed in the music of Asta Aweki. But his teenage years were turbulent. At 17, he and a friend decided to drop out of school, packed a mattress into a van, and left one weekend and never came home. That's where the name comes from, though he dropped the E to avoid copyright issues with a Canadian band. The myth of The Weeknd was built on the trilogy. 3 mixtapes released for free in 2011, House of Balloons, Thursday, and Echoes of Silence. At the time, R&B was dominated by bright, radio-friendly hits. Abel did the opposite. He sang about loneliness, substance abuse, and the hollow nature of fame with a voice that drew immediate, haunting comparisons to Michael Jackson. He created a world that felt like a party after the party, where the lights were too bright and the consequences were starting to set in. For the first few years of his career, Abel was a ghost. He refused interviews and avoided the spotlight. But as his cult following grew into a global movement, the underground king of dark R&B decided to do something no one expected. He decided to become a superstar. The transition began with Kissland, but it exploded with Beauty Behind the Madness. Suddenly, the man who sang about the shadows was at the top of the Billboard charts. With Can't Feel My Face, he achieved a rare feat. A song that sounded like a funky, upbeat pop anthem but was secretly about the numbing effects of addiction. He had infiltrated the mainstream, bringing his dark sensibilities to the brightest stages in the world. Then came Starboy. Abel cut off his signature, palm tree, hairstyle, collaborated with Daft Punk, and leaned into a sleek, neon-drenched aesthetic. He wasn't just a singer anymore. He was a brand. But even as he worked with icons like Lana Del Rey and Kendrick Lamar, he never lost the cinematic quality of his music. He began to treat his albums like films, with each era featuring a distinct costume, a specific color palette, and a narrative arc. This reached its peak with After Hours. In 2020, as the world went into lockdown, Abel released an album that defined the era. He appeared in music videos and on red carpets with a bloody face and a red suit, playing a character descending into a Vegas-induced madness. The lead single, Blinding Lights, became a global phenomenon, eventually becoming the most streamed song in Spotify history. It was a 1980s-inspired synthwave masterpiece that proved he could dominate the charts while still maintaining his artistic edge. His 2021 Super Bowl halftime show was the ultimate coronation. Without a single special guest, Abel stood in the center of the stadium, surrounded by a choir of bandaged clones, and performed a career-spanning set. It was a moment of total cultural dominance. He had gone from a kid sleeping on a mattress in a van to spending $7 million of his own money to make sure his Super Bowl vision was perfect. But Abel has never been one to stay comfortable. With his next project, Dawn FM, he shifted again, creating a conceptual, purgatory, radio station hosted by Jim Carrey. He began talking about killing the Weeknd persona, suggesting that he had taken the character as far as it could go. He moved into acting and producing with the HBO series The Idol, continuing to push boundaries and court controversy, always prioritizing the vibe over the safe choice. What makes The Weeknd so compelling is the contrast. He has the vocal range of a classic soul singer, but the heart of a punk rocker. He makes music for the stadium and music for the bedroom at the same time. He has managed to remain enigmatic even while being one of the most followed people on social media. He is an artist who understands the power of the era. He doesn't just release songs. He creates universes. From the black and white lo-fi aesthetic of Toronto to the red-suited madness of Las Vegas and the futuristic blue of the dawn, he has guided his audience through a decade of evolution. Abel Tesfaye took the pain of his youth and the chaos of his early 20s and turned them into a new kind of pop music. One that isn't afraid to be ugly, honest, or strange. He proved that you don't have to change who you are to fit into the mainstream. You just have to wait for the mainstream to catch up to you. As he prepares to close the chapter on The Weeknd and move into whatever comes next, he leaves behind a legacy as the definitive artist of the streaming age. He is the man who brought the shadows into the light. When you hear that opening synth of Blinding Lights, do you see the global pop star at the Super Bowl? Or do you still hear the mysterious kid from Toronto who started it all with nothing but a YouTube link and a dream? Thanks for watching.